This is Bryan, screenPhiles.com and review. What I'm looking at today is 2019's Haunt, directed by Beck and Bryan Woods. If you've seen John Carpenter's 1978 classic Halloween, a young Michael Myers, frustrated that his sister isn't taking him trick-or-treating, lashes out, killing her in the process. If you've seen 1980's Friday the 13th, Miss Voorhees, angry at the camp counselors who let her son drown, goes on a killing spree. I bring up those two films because the killers have motivation. I'm not saying it's good motivation. I'm not saying it's bad motivation. What I am saying is that it's simply motivation. They have a reason for what they do. Their violence isn't random. It could be argued, quite persuasively in fact, that it's way out of proportion to what actually happened. But, once again, it's not random. There's a reason for it. And that's the biggest problem with Haunt. Namely, there's no reason given for what happens. And that, for me at any rate, is very unsatisfying. I tend to enjoy movies less where I don't have an understanding as to why things are happening. That's not to say that that makes the movie bad in and of itself. It doesn't. Haunt revolves around 6 friends who, during Halloween, attend an extreme haunted house. Now, they clearly had no idea how extreme before they went into it, but, what is it, caveat emptor? So, they go into this haunted house, and the people who run this attraction are killing the attendees. And this is where the comparison to Halloween and Friday the 13th come in. There's no reason given for what they're doing. These people are killing other people for movie. And as I said, it's very unsatisfying. As the movie goes on, we come to learn that all the people who work at this attraction have very extreme surgeries, as in facial surgeries in particular. Lots of facial tattoos, lots of scarification, lots of body modification to various degrees. But, as I said, so what? The movie never establishes a link to why these people look the way they do and how they respond to people who attend their attraction. It's just pointless. It is almost like set dressing in a sense, in that the way they look seems scary, and it is quite extreme in some instances. But it's irrelevant because, as I said, there's no basis to it. The movie gives us no understanding of why they look the way they look, and maybe it has some effect on how they're treating these people. It's just nothing. It is killing for the sake of killing. By my reckoning, Haunt plays like a more murdery version of 2014's The Houses That October Built. And I enjoyed that movie. It's actually really interesting. But Haunt, once again, since it doesn't justify any of its antagonist's actions, is on some level quite frustrating. On another level, it's pretty damn enjoyable though. It's well shot. It is very well acted for this genre. As I've said ad infinitum, I didn't understand why the killers were doing what they were doing. But the acting was strong enough and interesting enough that I, at some point, didn't really care. I just kind of went with it. And if this lack of modus operandi on the part of the antagonist is something you can roll with, you're likely to enjoy Haunt very much. It's gorgeous to look at. It's well shot. And it's a lot of fun in certain ways. And in fact, there's a very Saw-esque vibe to it, where you don't quite understand what's happening. Though if you watch the movie in its entirety, you come to the conclusion that the writers also don't know why anything's happening. Or if they do know, just don't care enough to actually tell you. It's worth mentioning that Beck and Woods, interesting. It's worth mentioning that Beck and Woods also wrote the Quiet Place movies. And In their way, they're remarkably similar to Haunt, which is to say, in those movies, a creature pops up, does copious amounts of damage, but they never explain why it's happening. You don't know where the creatures come from, you don't know where they're going, you don't know why they're doing it, they're just doing something. And it's worth mentioning that I enjoyed the first A Quiet Place. I stopped watching them after the second though, because it's just repeating the same formula, which is to say, giving you no information to understand why what's happening is happening, and just having a person going through an event that was already depicted quite well in the first movie. Not something I'm particularly interested in. Overall, as I said, I genuinely enjoyed Haunt. I kind of didn't want to, but I liked it. It's a really well-shot movie. The acting is particularly strong. It is an interesting movie. It is gory. But as I said, it lacks motivation for its antagonist, which makes it just kind of empty, but work surprisingly well. So what do you think? This is Bryan with screenPhiles.com and review. Do you agree, disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or a follow. Or buy me some coffee.